All right, how's it going? So here we are with our first episode of Outlaw Conversations. So to kick us off, we have my wife Haley Law, your mother of two, wife, military spouse, administrative assistant, book influencer, and aspiring writer, and all. But take a moment to just have a nice conversation and learn more about you. And also, starting off, tell us about yourself. Where'd you grow up? What's the story of you?
Basically, I grew up in Tallahassee, so I grew up in a college town, and I grew up on the outskirts. So when people think of college town, like, oh, you grew up like as preppy. No, I'm complete opposite. I grew up on the outskirts, so I grew up a little bit more country than most folks that grew up in Tallahassee. I was always found in the dirt, but through that, I ended up playing softball, and also that ended up leading into my softball career, which got me a scholarship into college and stuff. And so that's how I got my scholarship, and that's how we met. We went to the same college.
Yeah.
And so that also is how I kind of got back into books and things, because while I was in college, my second year there, that was when I ended up getting hurt and needing surgery on my hip. So I needed something to keep me busy. So reading was my go-to. But I was going to school originally to be a pharmacist. But then when things kind of just fell, ended up switching up and going for accounting. And so as years went by, I worked for the state, and we've kind of just bounced around kind of a little bit. And so I've had a different number of jobs that provide a different number of things. So I went from working for the state, and dealing with lawyers and things like that in the administrative court system, to I worked for the county and learned about planning and zoning. So I've learned different legal laws when it comes to planning and zoning stuff. And now I actually work for an accounting firm. So I'm kind of back on my normal track.
Okay, awesome. Obviously, career-wise, you've had a wide variety there. We have two wonderful children, Dakota and Paisley. But let's dive back into, you mentioned your college time and everything. So obviously you started off playing softball there, but Andrew, what else were you into?
So while I was at Andrew, so I said I was on a scholarship. I actually ended up switching scholarships the beginning of my second year, which actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because what ended up happening was I ended up getting hurt, but I switched my scholarship to the Andrew Servant Leadership Program, and that is more of how we met. So through Andrew, the Servant Leadership is kind of a program where you learn more about how to be more of a leader, but also doing it in a way that serves the group that you're leading in the most efficient way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a lot centered around obviously the servant leadership principles, but the key point of our program was getting community service hours, helping out Cuthbert, Georgia, which is where Andrew College is. And if you don't know, it's a very small.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actual residents, less than 2,000 people that live in Randolph County. Super tiny town, super tiny college, less than 300 students.
Yeah, if you live there, you're basically expected to work at the chicken plant, and that's about it.
You either work at the chicken plant or the college. It's kind of the only two places, unless you work out of town. But we did a lot of community service there. I think between our 2 years, between the two of us, we had over 2,000 hours of community service. I had roughly 1,200 hours and everything, because I wasn't on any other scholarship, so I had nothing better to do. But we were able to do mission trips with Habitat for Humanity. We both went to Connecticut, built some houses up there in Bridgeport, which has the largest wage gap, I think, of anywhere in the country.
That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. We literally went over one street. You'd be in multi-million-dollar homes, and then you go one street over, and it's just the poverty line right there.
Yeah. So that was great. And then, even though you didn't get to go on the first mission trip, you helped from afar by sending me my wallet and all the other crap that I forgot to get on the plane. Luckily, was able to fly out, but needed that to be able to get home and to be able to pay for stuff while I was over there.
Very expensive package to Hawaii.
Yeah, we weren't even dating yet, so that was out of the generosity there. Maybe you saw something in me. But yeah, so Andrew, obviously it was a great time. Then you went did a couple more semesters at TCC while we lived and worked in Tallahassee, and then we've kind of just bounced around since there.
Yeah.
And all. All right, so your biggest interest and everything, I think, obviously evident from your shirt.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the books. What do you like to read? How much do you read? And what are your top recommendations?
So book-wise, I typically lead more towards fantasy and dark romance. Those are the ones that I typically stay with. But basically, I read just about anything. If it has romance in it, I'm gonna read it. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a sappy person at heart. I love the romance.
You're just a girl. You're just a girl.
Because why deal with all the sad stuff in the world when I can have like a sappy romance?
Okay.
But books for me are just a great escape, and that's just always been me. But for me, typically, I read probably on a good year. I can read like 100 books a year, but on my slow years when we were super busy, probably 50.
50 to 100 books. Okay, so how do you get through 50 to 100 books? Because I struggle. I think I'm at like 10 now, which I think it's pretty above average there. And on all mine are audiobooks, but
okay, audiobooks still counts as reading.
Yeah. But how do you get to 50 to 100 books in a year? That's crazy.
So that's the part where everybody thinks I'm extremely crazy. I do 3 books at one time. So I have one audiobook, I have an ebook, and then I have a physical book that I read all at the same time. Because my ADHD brain can't handle it. I always have to have something, and they're each all different flavors of whatever I'm feeling at the time. So like one's like a fantasy, one's a dark romance, one's something else. So that's how I can keep them separated in my mind, along with them being in different formats. But that's basically how I do it. It makes it, so for some reason, it just clicks in my head.
Okay. Well, I'll never understand that. I barely can focus on an audiobook at work or anything in lull times, let alone trying to keep 3 different stories in my head. And
when you have to sit and read financial statements, it's easy when you're sitting there proofing them and you can just have an audiobook going, like let the proofing let go in one ear, one out the other while you're sitting there reading with the audiobook.
All right, so you're obviously a very avid reader and all that. What are your top recommendations? And I'll someone off the street ask you what books to read. What are you recommending?
So all of my girls on BookTok know that Throne of Glass is my Roman Mint Empire, obviously. So I know that's basic of me, but there's just something about it. Every time I read it, it just inspires me to do things. Like I want to write, I want to go out and do something. But if you want to go one tier down from that one, I will say it would be the Plated Prisoner series, which is cool about that is I actually read it before it actually got traditionally published. So what that means is when she first put the books out, she published them herself. I think at the time she did it through Amazon's platform. Mm-hmm. And so what that does is it automatically puts it directly through KU, and then also Amazon makes the books for her. And so at that point, it was so cool to actually see the love of these books just grow over time. Because I think now at this point, they have gotten to a point. I think she's got a series deal right now for the book, so they're looking to make a TV series out of it. So that's what's really cool about watching this series grow.
Awesome. All right. So the Plated Prisoner and the Akatar, the Sarah J. Maas books,
Yes.
and all that are your two top recommendations and everything. All right. So we mentioned the aspiring author and all. So what can you tell us about the book that you're writing?
Okay, so that's where it's going to be hard because I can't give too much away. But it is I'll call it a cop romance, but he is a U.S. Marshal, and he happens to work in the same building as she does, so it's a forced proximity for all my book girls. And so she's in the same office as him, and she actually works for his boss. Like her boss is his best friend, so he is constantly in there, and like he does everything in his power to annoy her. But what's fun about it is, like, of course, she has to keep it kind of professional in the office. So she has to be a little bit more sneaky about the way she gets back at him.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a little more fun. But they absolutely cannot stand each other. I don't know what it is about that, but I love it so much. And so it's basic enemies to lovers. And so there is something I can't say, because not even they know what it is, that brings them together and forces them to come together and get over whatever it is that they have against each other, to finally fall in love. And it's actually so good. I can't believe my crazy mind came up with it.
Okay, so we got cop romance, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, and all. They're gonna come together for some surprise deal, but it sounds like a book girlie's dream there. And all. Is it going to be spicy romance? Obviously romance, but
we will see about the spice. That's going to be interesting because I'm scared of anybody I know.
You're blushing just talking about spice. So are you trying to write it? And all, I think it's going to be hilarious. All right. So where are you at in the process? Where are we at with this book?
So I have a full outline already made. So I know exactly where we're going, what are the stops along the way. So that's where we're at. So at this point, what I'm doing is writing out the scenes and kind of patchworking them together to make them flow.
Mm-hmm.
And because unfortunately, I'm not one of those writers. I can't write from beginning to end. And so what I'm doing is I'm just piecing these scenes together and making them work. And honestly, it makes it more fun because I can add in little bitty scenes that probably would have never made it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome. All right. So do we have any kind of goal in mind for when you plan on concluding the book, or what's the plan for release?
So unfortunately, that's a little bit harder because my life is kind of hectic, between me and you constantly being busy and work and the social media aspect. It's kind of crazy to keep up with, but the plan is like, as soon as anytime I have a chance to write, I'm going to do my best to get to it. But I do have a plan to get it done as quickly as possible, because I do have a plan for it to be a 4-book series.
Okay, awesome. All right, so what inspired you to pick up writing?
So that's what everybody asks, because like they're like, most people are like, what? There's no way you can do it. I'm like, in my head, like, everybody has a story. So there's has to be somebody out there that will resonate with that story. So my thought is, why not just write it? Because what's it going to hurt, honestly, in the end? So my thought was like, let's just put pen to paper, see where it goes. And so far, the few people that have read the pieces that I have put together, they are absolutely in love with it. So what I'm going to say is, if you have a story, write it down. You never know who it's going to connect with.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's kind of what's led to doing this whole outlaw conversation and everything, is just always having interesting talks and discussions with people and realizing other people may find this interesting. I can't tell how many times been sitting with guard buddies or me and Charles working out and having great ideas, and it's like, man, we need to have like a podcast or something and talk about this. And there's got to be other people out there that love it. So just people having a story, I think is a huge thing of sharing that. And so it's kind of the goal with this is see what other people's stories out there, and maybe someone likes it. And who knows, maybe it's just for the 10 people that comment and like videos now that'll enjoy it. But awesome. All right. So outside of writing, work, and books, what else is it that you like to do?
So this makes me a granny. I don't know what it is about millennials nowadays, but we're going back to the granny hobbies. So back in 2020, I picked up crocheting and kind of taught myself how to crochet. So that was been an easy way to keep my hands busy. And then another thing I picked up was calligraphy, which I don't know if anybody has sat and watched somebody sit there and do calligraphy. That is the most relaxing thing to sit and watch and do. But it's actually, I've gotten so into it that I've kind of trying to find a way to work it into social media right now with my book content.
Okay. So we'll see some calligraphy arts hitting TikTok and Instagram here soon and all that. So yeah, definitely granny hobbies there of crocheting, reading books, and fancy writing and all. I think that's every younger person's worst nightmare there of you're forcing me to read, knit, and write in cursive. And all.
I won't say I've gotten to knitting yet. That looks a whole lot harder.
Yeah, well, in my mind, knitting, crocheting, all the same, everything. But yeah, so arts and crafts, reading books, and everything. I think that you kind of mix in um, hobbies like your family and all has. Your mom does arts and crafts and sells those at convention type things, and all as a side hobby. So obviously, kind of fits that it's passed down there for you. And I imagine with our busy lives, it's probably harder to squeeze in much more hobby life there and all.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I want to try to mix it into my social media. That way I can actually bring it back into the light a little bit more, because once I do everything after work and the social media, like I'd rather just sit and read, and I'd like to bring some of those hobbies back forward.
Okay, so we kind of talked about the book influencer, the social media, and everything. What if we go to your pages? What do we expect, and all? What's the kind of content that you create, and all?
So that's the funny thing, because I'm kind of a little bit all over the place. You can expect some crazy like lip sync videos, me being crazy and being a little bit sassy. Or you can expect like these crazy transition videos, ones where like I have flip books and it flips and magically turns into a different book. And then I've even done some with quick transition of clothes change outfits as well. So you never know what you're going to find on my page, honestly.
All right, so we got book reviews, book centered content on the transitions, and just showing off kind of the different things that you get. Your bookshelf in there is ever expanding and all that. But as far as like book reviews and all that, I know you kind of review books that you've read recently, and you're getting into since you know a lot of indie authors from social media, starting to review their books as well, right?
Yes, so that's another cool aspect of being on social media, is that I do get advanced reader copies and things like that, which on BookTok we call them ARC reading. And so I actually have one with me. So this is one of like the first actual physical ARC reading copy that I have. Is Mind to Break by Zara Blackwell. And so way ARC reading works is what you do is these authors tend to send you either a physical copy, which is not common, but it does happen, or they send you an copy. So what you do is you read these books before it's actually released, and you'll do a review on it. That way they can get reviews already on hand for the books before it's actually released to the public. That way readers know like what they're getting into before they purchase or get the book from somebody.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the movies and there's already like, this is top 10 movie of the year type thing. It's the pre-showings, the pre-readings.
Yes, so that's kind of my way to help get back to the indie authors, because indie authors don't have like a huge publishing company that does this for them. So they kind of have to do all this by themselves. So with me being a writer in my own aspect, I know what they're going to have to, what they have to go through in order to get these. So what I do is I try to sign up when I can for these ARC copies and do these reviews. So a lot of these indie authors, they'll have them up on their pages. And so what you have to do is you have to sign up, and they'll have to select all these people and send them these copies. But then there's also risks to sending out these copies as well, because somebody can easily take them and distribute it to everybody.
Yeah.
Without their permission, and either plagiarize it or
make money off of their stuff, and they don't see a dime. I don't know. That's cool. So I think that's great that you've kind of joined a community of people where you guys get to talk books, you make book related content and everything. I know I hang out in there, even though I'm a very minor reader and all that, but we've got to meet some indie authors and all that, and it's one, obviously you get the advice for you writing your book, but also good friends that we get to hang out with and all, and you've read some of their books, like JJ, T.M. Ford, and all Trevor, who's got Still I Stand. Now it's a cool way that you are getting to connect with authors and all that, and even ones that you've found as indie authors that are now getting actual publishing deals, like Kmart, Nova, and everything. So all these cool things. So that's been a cool, I think, experience with your book content and social media. You know, it's not only like the community of people that you get to hang out with, but just finding all the different avenues. And
they are the most supportive people I have ever met. Like, because I started this last year, almost to the date, and I'm the most introverted person out there, and I would never expect to be where I'm at with the social media. So just to see how supportive everybody is and the connections I've made, it's absolutely crazy.
That's awesome. All right. So kind of moving away from the hobbies and other stuff. So mentioned I'm in the Guard, so you're a military spouse and all that. Tell us about that experience.
So it is not for the faint of heart. I will say that. And I knew that going in, because you were already in when we started dating. And so I'll say that's something you always have to kind of keep in mind, is like knowing where you're going to go, because it's emotional toll on you, but it's also emotional toll on your partner, because you're their backbone. So you have to not only keep yourself strong, but also keep your partner strong.
Yeah. So kind of experiences wise, what have you had to deal with in our 10 years of you either being the military girlfriend or military wife?
Oh, where do we start? There was when that one time the AC broke down. When it was just me and a 4-month-old and a 1-year-old, and having to figure out how to make that work in the middle of COVID and all that stuff. That's a story in itself. And so it's just, you kind of have to learn how to improvise and just figure out a way to make it work. I'll be honest, like, I'm not the most organized person when it's when it's me and you here. But when you're gone, I absolutely have to be. Like, I literally have to write everything down to make sure I do it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, because you literally have to take on 2 whole roles in the household and just make it work. But then also kind of just still kind of be there regardless, to make sure everything's going right on your end and everything like that.
Yeah. So kind of give background here and all that. So when we started dating, I was enlisted, and everything, and did some train ups for some deployments that ended up not happening, but still those train ups involved, month-long ATs to, 6 weeks being gone at a time. So you kind of got thrown into the fire there of every year since. It kind of built until it culminated on a couple years ago when I went on that deployment and everything that you kind of briefly mentioned there. So you've had the experience of everything from deployment train ups to like ROTC, training to be an officer, captain's career course, BOLIC, where I was gone to DC area up at Fort Greg Adams, Fort Lee, whatever we're calling it now, for that was like 5 months and everything, and then to shortly after that going on a deployment for 13 months and all. Luckily it was still stateside, but still, after having a 3-month-old and 1-year-old, tough there to manage. I don't envy you on that and all. So definitely a lot of experience there, even though it's part-time service in the traditional sense and all that. It's still a tough gig and all. And not to throw into now that I've commissioned, since the deployment, we've finished up one command, rolled right into a second one. Hopefully it goes a lot easier, and everything, a lot less people to worry about, but picking up those roles of being the commander's wife, of helping out when we have events, or just dealing with a lot stressful more times there. Now I have like 170 folks to worry about and handle problems for, versus when you're a platoon leader it's like 30, 40 and all. So yeah, it's been a fun time there. So what do you think the challenges are of trying to balance life around like those type of duties?
I would say you have to definitely be a very clear-headed person, because you have to roll with the punches, because if you can't keep a level head, it's not for you. Because you just kind of have to wing it half the time and then just figure out where to go with it, because sometimes you get thrown like crazy things. Like, there was one time you went and they were like, hey, you're expected to come back home one day, and they were like, no, we're going to send you this way. You're going to go have an extra day. And I was like, great. Lovely.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to be able to adapt to everything. So you just have to be ready for absolutely anything to happen. And also, something is always going to go wrong, no matter what. Every time you're gone, something goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important kind of realizing you plan for the worst case scenario and everything, regardless of being in leadership or even back being enlisted. You're just like, hey, they're saying it could, like, best case is this, but worst case is this. So plan for worst case and everything. Like, when we've done missions and different things, it's like, yeah, looks like things may clear up and this hurricane relief stuff may be done on this date, but worst case scenario it's this. So, like, planning work wise around the kids, all that, like, plan for the worst, because most of the time it probably ends up being the worst case scenario.
Luckily I have bosses that actually understand what I'm going through. And
so yeah, what's the adapting to, like, face those challenges and all, what have you had to do over the years to get better at trying to overcome all the challenges?
So like I've literally had to find ways to work with my workplace, be like, hey, this is a situation I have to either this is what's going on, and in that moment I have to figure out like, hey, am I going to have to just take off work, or I have to go find somebody else to either watch the kids or um, even find a way to work from home, anything like that, just to make it possible. Or even sometimes I'll have to like drive all the way down to where our parents are and drop them off and have them watch them just so I can go to work. And that's a turn and burn of what 4 hours in the night. So you just kind of have to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think being able to adapt is the hugest thing as our family and all that. We've adapted how organized we are, building a support system and having to adapt of the changes of us moving and all. It's at least when we did the deployment, we were 30 minutes away from family. So if you needed assistance taking care of the kids and all, since I was gone, a lot easier. It's a little difficult now that we live a couple hours away. But yeah, adapting there and just finding ways to meet those challenges head on has been huge. So what would your advice be to families in similar situations? You got, we mentor some LTs and everything, and folks that I've served with. So as they start families and all, what advice would you give to them?
Definitely have that support. Whether it's family, whether it's somebody you're close with, just have somebody to talk to. Sometimes all you need is somebody to talk to just to let it out. Because sometimes if you just let it just sit in there and fester, that is probably the worst thing you can do. Because sometimes I couldn't tell family like what was going on at home because they just didn't understand. Mm-hmm. So while you were deployed, one of my coworkers, she totally got it. So I would sit there and just vent, and she would just listen. That's all she needed to do. She just needed to listen, and then that would make my whole week 1,000 times better. So a support system is the best option, and then also having a plan in place of like what you're going to do, like how you're going to get by day, and if something were to happen, like say like I mentioned before, like the AC went out on us that while you were deployed, mm-hmm. like who's going to be that point of contact to help you if something like that happens?
Yeah. I think that's the hugest thing is the support system, whether it be family, friends, having that whole plan in place of, who's your point to go talk to be able to vent and talk about the mental stress, emotional stress that it could be, or who's also there to help with kids if you have kids, to help watch, because you're a single parent essentially for that time period, and also having a way to get away and have a break is important. Whether it's having a few hours to go to the movies or having an hour to clean the house because it's impossible to keep a house clean with a one and a infant and all is huge. And I think the other thing that we've kind of developed too is to be a lot more organized. And I know you briefly mentioned you're super organized when I'm away, and all that. I love how you throw it away when I get home. But we are more organized than we used to be. We got like 3 or 4 Google calendars to keep track of all the kid stuff, our stuff, race dates, and everything for my hobbies. And then we have the full year-long calendar where we try and put everything on one page so that it's easy to see, and also being organized there.
Color coordinating helps a lot.
Yeah, every kid has a different color on the calendar, and all that. So organization, family support plan. I think the other piece of that I would add on is communication and all that. Yes. Setting clear goals and understanding of where we are through it all. So you've known since the beginning, like, hey, more than likely this is going to be a career and everything. At least do 20, see where it goes, and that's even kind of more blossomed and become the truth since I commissioned and all. So having those discussions where we talk through what's our plan, what's the timeline look like on the career, so that you're on the same page as I am, so that it's not me making decisions at drill that affect the both of us, whether it be for positions or anything. Like we have good conversations on talking through, hey, here's the pros and cons of what this opportunity means and everything, and we'll talk through our friends and our mentors well to do it. But it's having that we basis on everything we go through it, and just communicating of how does this affect us and all, and is this what we want to do, because we're the team through it all. So communication is, I think, the other huge thing of just set this straight. You may have different goals, and like I may have different aspirations than what you want to do and all. I'm sure at some points you're like, I wish he'd get out and we wouldn't have to deal with this anymore. But just being on the same page and believing in each other is a huge thing, I think, too.
Yeah. Otherwise, it won't ever work.
Yeah. I think
I've seen in your career, I've seen so many couples fall apart just because they do not talk to each other.
Yeah. It's a huge thing and all, and it'll create resentment either towards each other or one person feeling resented towards the guard that may not be warranted. Sometimes there is times to resent the organization and all for things they do, but a lot of times it's to some fault of something going on, whether someone didn't communicate something clearly, or they're hiding something because they know that they won't be supported on it and all. It's just having that support system extends through the family internally as well. We say, yeah, I think that's great advice there for us upcoming military families. Kind of gives it a little depth of our experience there and all. We've been through a good bit together. Like I said, enlisted time, moving our way up through on the officer side and all, and we're at what, it's been 12 years now moving in the guard. And also I've had some great experiences.
13.
And all, met some great people. And everything. Charles has been a great friend of our mentor, got me into doing all the running and races and stuff, which has become my whole hobby outside of school and work. But yeah, so I appreciate you sitting down with us, having the first ever outlaw conversation and everything. Is there anything else people should know about you? Any last closing thoughts on your experiences?
I would say always try whatever. If don't ever think, like, if you have an idea, just do it. You never know what's going to happen with it, because I never thought I'd be at this point where I'm at, and I'm here. I never thought I'd be here. So it's just do it. What is it going to hurt? That would be my one advice.
All right, awesome. All right, so where can we find you online? Where can we support Haley Law?
All right, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Is Haley Law's Bookish Self, and I'm sure we can tag that on there as well, so that you can find me there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for doing the first ever conversation. Test out this whole experiment and all that. We'll see if we can get it up and running and find other people to learn more about and see what life's going on for everyone else. But appreciate it. And this will finish up our first episode.
All right.
Awesome.